Hello and welcome to Forever Motorsports. My name is Reece and today we'll be talking about the winners and losers from the 2023 Las Vegas Grand Prix. The Las Vegas Grand Prix was one of the most exciting of the season, and we certainly had a lot of winners and losers from that race. But before we get into that, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date with all of the latest Formula 1 news. A thrilling Las Vegas Grand Prix was certainly one of the best of the season, with drivers jostling for position throughout the race up until the final lap. Today we'll be having a look at some of the biggest losers and winners from the Grand Prix. One of the winners was certainly the Las Vegas Grand Prix itself. After the farcical scenes of Thursday and Friday, this is exactly what the Vegas Grand Prix needed to make a comeback. A smooth Grand Prix with people talking about the racing, not the shambles of the drain covers, was what Formula 1 would have been hoping for, not what we got this weekend though. It was unfortunate that Las Vegas was hit by troubles in the first runnings of FP1 and FP2, given the millions that it had pumped into the Formula 1 race. The efforts to try and block fans without tickets from viewing the race have been laughable as well, with some watching in reflections, riding up and down escalators, or by simply peering through the barriers put in place. The track itself though was decent for racing throughout, with overtaking spots aplenty, and this bodes well for the future of this race. Looking at one of the losers from the Grand Prix weekend was Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez got mugged on the final lap for P2 by Charles Leclerc. For a driver renowned for his defensive racecraft, it was a lapse in judgment that cannot be explained. Even if you thought Leclerc was nowhere near being able to dive bomb you, why wouldn't you not cover the inside line just in case? Sergio Perez decided to run a bigger rear wing this weekend, which meant that he was down in top speed, which would have made it even more difficult to defend from drivers such as Charles Leclerc. But Perez stuck to his line and left a huge door marked P2 available here for Charles Leclerc to barge into, and Charles Leclerc, as we've said, took that P2 on the final lap. Perez, though, this weekend was able to secure P2 in the Drivers' Championship, which was Red Bull's sole remaining goal for 2023, to round out its greatest season in Formula 1, but also celebrated becoming the first team to win 20 wins in a season. What did Perez say, though, regarding his race on Sunday? I ended up locking up a few times, but luckily we kept it on track. Then in the end, with Charles, I wasn't expecting him to make the move. Disappointing for Sergio Perez, but still a great race weekend for himself. One of the winners of the weekend was, of course, Max Verstappen, who went on to win the race. This was Verstappen's 18th win of the season from 21 races. It is his 16th in the last 17 races as well, 6th on the trot, and his 53rd of his career, bringing him level with Sebastian Vettel on 53 for 3rd on the all-time list. That's 26-year-old Verstappen on 3rd on the all-time wins list, behind only Lewis Hamilton's 103 wins and Michael Schumacher's 91. At this rate, he would pass both of those in the late 2026 season. But he had to work very hard for this race win on Sunday. His move on Charles Leclerc in turn 1 was over the top and saw him get a 5-second time penalty. He should have given the place back immediately, but of course, he decided to take that 5-second time penalty in the pit phases. His lap 25 move on George Russell that led to the contact at turn 12 also reeked of impatience. But in the end, the stewards decided to give George Russell a penalty for that incident instead. He was clearly going to get past with the DRS, but in the end, he made that move happen. It was far from a clean drive, but at the end of the day, he got the race win. Verstappen's comments at the end of the race went as such: "I didn't mean to push Charles off track, but I couldn't slow it down, and I just kept sliding wide on all 4 wheels. So that's why we had to go wide. At the time, you're also full of adrenaline, and I was not happy with the decision, but looking back at it, it was probably the right call." One of the bigger losers from this weekend was Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton was just plain unlucky to receive a puncture for his minor contact with Oscar Piastri that went on to wreck his entire race. By his latest lap 25, he was 15th on the board and climbed to 7th by the flag. That is a job well done on a weekend that Mercedes had pace but just couldn't unlock it. As for Russell, he confessed to the Verstappen contact being his mistake, as he did not see the Red Bull coming, but a 5-second penalty was relatively harsh. Russell rallied to 4th on the road, but with a charging final stint, he dropped to 8th once his penalty was applied. It means that Mercedes' 20-point lead over Ferrari in the Constructors has been whittled down to 4 heading to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. At least that will provide some interesting racing to follow at Yas Marina circuit. Russell went on to say at the end of the race, "I just totally didn't see him in the blind spot. I wasn't expecting an overtake. I wasn't even really fighting him because we knew Max wasn't in our race." Another winner from the Las Vegas Grand Prix was Esteban Ocon. Esteban Ocon was dumped in Q1 following a skirmish with Verstappen, but capitalized on the Turn 1 chaos during the race and made up 8 places on lap 1 to climb back to respectability and a base from which he could build his race. His move on Pierre Gasly for 5th was a bit sketchy, with the teammates coming within inches of throwing away a bucketful of points, but the move arguably made Ocon's race, as Gasly became something of a cork, allowing Ocon to escape up the road from the Foster, Carlos Sainz, Russell and Hamilton. He was passed for 4th on the final lap by Russell, but took P4 when Russell's penalty was applied. It was a much needed return to a big result for a driver who has somewhat been in the dumps this season. Ocon's reaction to the race were as such. It was a chaotic start and we managed to keep it clean and gain 8 positions on lap 1. After that, we had to be patient, execute a clean race, and managing the tyres was really the key. I made some good overtakes along the way to finish 4th at this amazing venue. It's really a great result, especially considering how I was feeling after qualifying. One of the losers was his own teammate though, Pierre Gasly. He started 4th and finished down in P11, having been passed by a charging Piastri late on. It was compounded by a miserable night for the Frenchman, who struggled with graining on the hard tyres and lost the pace that he needed to keep going. Alpine seemed to be able to have a great race with one car, but never both. It's time the team worked to rectify that. Gasly said after the race, "It was a disappointing outcome on my side of the garage to go from 4th on the grid to outside of the points in 11th place. There are many things for us to review, and that is not what we've set out to achieve today." Some of the other losers from the Las Vegas Grand Prix was the likes of McLaren and Lando Norris, who crashed out on, I think it was lap 8 of the race, approaching turn 12. He just went over one of the bumps and was unable to hold the car and was careered into the barriers. This caused one of the first safety cars of the race, and disappointing for Lando Norris, but glad to hear that he was alright after he had been checked out at one of the local hospitals. Disappointing for McLaren in a race that we thought they would have been able to have quite a lot of pace with a car that really enjoys high-speed circuits, but in the end Oscar Piastri was able to take the only points position down in P10. It was certainly a very exciting race on Sunday with so much action happening throughout. It has the second most amount of overtakes for the Formula 1 season this year, behind Zandvoort, with I think it was 83, but it just shows we want to see more races like this where we get a lot of overtaking, but at the same time we need to focus on the racing rather than the show of the sport, where we had that FP1 session that was marred by the drain covers not being thoroughly checked ahead of the running. But at least we did get a great race on Sunday, which provided great spectacles for all of us. Thank you very much for watching the video here on Forever Motorsports. Be sure to let us know down in the comments what you thought of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and let us know if you thought there were any other winners or losers from that race. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I've been Reece on Forever Motorsports. Cheers.